Good afternoon. It's Sunday, October 4th. You are tuned to IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. At this hour, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who arrived from the United States this afternoon, is convening an emergency meeting at the Defense Ministry in Tel Aviv with Israel's security chief to discuss the latest wave of terror in Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria. Netanyahu is slated to convene the security cabinet tomorrow evening. The two victims of last night's terror attack in the old city of Jerusalem, Rabbi Nehemiah Levi and Aaron Bennett Banita, were laid to rest this afternoon. 41-year-old Rabbi Levi of Jerusalem, a father of 7, was buried at the Har Menuchot Cemetery. Thousands attended his funeral, including President Reuven Rivlin, Ashkenazi Chief Rabbi David Lau, and Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat, all of whom hailed Levi as a selfless hero. Levi rushed to the scene of the stabbing last night when he heard the shouting and came out to help. Addressing the crowd, the president urged the public to continue to visit the old city despite the violence and not to cave into terror. Our enemies, he said, know how to hurt us, but not how to beat us. And he stressed that the ongoing fight against terror requires determination. Shortly afterwards, 21-year-old Aaron Bennett Banita was laid to rest. Banita was an Israeli soldier serving in a special program that integrated Haredim into the army. He was from Beitar Illit and leaves behind 2 children and his wife. The deadly stabbing attack took place at around 7 p.m. last night. Aaron Banita, his wife Adele, and their 2-year-old toddler were walking down the old city's Haggai Street towards the Lion's Gate. You're now seeing graphic footage of the attack as it took place in real time, filmed by one of the bystanders. The terrorist pulled out a knife and began stabbing Banita and his wife. Rabbi Levi heard the shouts and ran to help, but was quickly stabbed in his upper body. The terrorist then grabbed Levi's pistol and tried to fire it. The wounded wife managed to call the attention of forces situated just moments away. Officers quickly engaged in a short gun battle, and the terrorist was shot dead. Banita's 22-year-old wife, Adele, is in serious condition, and their 2-year-old toddler is in fair conditioning after suffering a gunshot wound to his leg as a result of the attack. The terrorist who carried out this attack was identified as 19-year-old Mohamed Halabi Shafiq, a resident of Ramallah. The Islamic Jihad terror group, which claimed responsibility for the attack, said Shafiq was a member of their organization. Several days ago, the terrorist had warned of further actions of resistance against the occupiers in his Facebook page. He wrote that according to what he sees, the Third Intifada has already erupted. Within hours of the old city stabbing, a Palestinian resident of the East Jerusalem neighborhood of Isawiya pulled out a knife and attacked a 15-year-old Israeli on the city's Street of the Prophets. The Israeli teenager was moderately injured, and the assailant tried to flee the scene. This video shows the attacker a few hundred yards away, still holding the knife along the light rail tracks. Bystanders shouted to police to shoot him down, and the officers opened fire, killing him on the spot. The Palestinian was identified as 19-year-old Fadi Aloun, who reportedly wrote on his Facebook page, "Either martyrdom or victory." Israel police later arrested his father and uncle. In the wake of the security situation, forces have been bolstered across the capital. The IDF has temporarily restricted Palestinian access into the old city. Entry will be permitted only to Israeli citizens, tourists, business owners, and Arab residents of the old city itself. Also, police announced that only male Muslims over the age of 50 will be allowed to enter the Temple Mount. No restrictions were placed on women. In light of the developments, the streets of the old city were virtually deserted today after Arab merchants there declared a general strike. There was widespread unrest in the West Bank today, with violence erupting in Judea and Samaria. In Jenin, IDF troops raided the refugee camp and surrounded the home of a known Hamas terrorist. Rioting erupted and fire was exchanged. Our reports say 18 Palestinians were wounded in the clashes, and no IDF troops were reported injured. Palestinians pelted IDF troops near Be'er Zayt and Anatot, as well as around El Arub. They also stoned Israeli vehicles near Husa in the southern Hebron Hills. The army set up dozens of new checkpoints across the West Bank, isolating villages and causing long delays. Meanwhile, the IDF has confirmed that significant progress has been made in the manhunt for the perpetrators of Thursday night's terror attack, in which Eitam and Naama Henkin were shot to death in their car in front of their 4 children, near the settlement of Itamar in the West Bank. A gag order has been placed on details of the investigation, but the Security Shin Bet service said, they released a short statement saying that a number of Palestinian suspects in direct and indirect involvement in the shooting have been detained. The arrests were made in a joint operation of the IDF, Shin Bet, and police forces. Within hours from Thursday's attack, the Army deployed 4 battalions in the West Bank to take part in searches for the terror cell and respond to the deteriorating security situation in the area. Despite the recent tensions, the Palestinian Authority has still failed to condemn the attacks of the killing of Jewish people. However, officials in the PA did break their silence only to denounce Israel for its policy of escalation after 2 Palestinian assailants were killed as they carried out the attacks. In a written statement published by the Wafa news agency, a senior PA official called on the international community to intervene following the killing of 2 of its citizens in what he called a series of incursions in the West Bank. The statement made no mention whatsoever of the fact that the 2 Palestinians were killed while carrying out stabbing attacks against Israeli civilians. Turning to the weather now, and the forecast is for continued pleasant days with partly cloudy skies and a slight drop in temperatures. Here's a look at the expected highs and lows at home and abroad for the next 24 hours. That's our bulletin for today. Please join us again tomorrow when Laura Cornfield will be here to bring you the latest news from Israel. Until then, I'm Ariel O'Sullivan, bidding you a farewell and wishing you a peaceful holiday, Chag Sameach, and Shalom from Jerusalem.